Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I want you to listen to exactly why this is going to be a mistrial. Listen to this.
So you heard that yourself. This is a case that nobody wanted to bring, including Alvin Bragg. It was just at the last minute they decided to do it. It's a case that, if you're looking back, it goes back many, many years, 2015, maybe before that. And it's a case as to bookkeeping, which is a very minor thing in terms of the law, in terms of all the violent crime that's going on outside as we speak, right outside as we speak. But this is a case where you pay a lawyer, who's a lawyer, and they call it a legal expense. That's the exact term they use. Legal expense in the books. And another thing that wasn't even said was we never even deducted it as a tax deduction. So that takes a whole vast area. Most people want to deduct everything. We never even took it as a tax deduction. But they called the payment to a lawyer a legal expense in the books. They didn't call it construction. They didn't say you're building a building. It called a payment to a lawyer because, as you know, Cohen is a lawyer, represented a lot of people over the years. Now, I'm not the only one. And wasn't very good in a lot of ways in terms of his representation. But he represented a lot of people. But he puts in an invoice or whatever, a bill, and they pay it, they call it a legal expense. I got indicted for that. What else would you call it? Actually, nobody's been able to say what you're supposed to call it. If a lawyer puts in a bill, or an invoice, and you pay the bill, and in the book, it's a little line, that's a very small little line. I don't know if you could even write more than 2 words. It's not like you could tell a life story. They marked it down to a legal expense. This is what I got indicted over. Think of it. I got indicted. I'm the leading candidate. I'm beating Biden. I'm beating the Republicans now. I have the nomination. And this is what they try and take me off the trail for. That checks being paid to a lawyer. He is a lawyer, or was a lawyer. And also the things he got in trouble for were things that had nothing to do with me. He got in trouble, he went to jail. This had nothing to do with me. This had to do with the taxi cab company that he owned, which is just something he owned, and medallions and borrowing money and a lot of things, but it had nothing to do with me. He represented a lot of people over the years. But they take this payment and they call it a legal expense, and you heard it today for the first time. This is what I got indicted over. This is what took me off and takes me off the campaign trail, because I should be in Georgia now. I should be in Florida now. I should be in a lot of different places right now campaigning, and I'm sitting here. And this will go on for a long time. It's very unfair. The judge is conflicted, as you know. It's very unfair what's going on. And I should be allowed to campaign. And whoever heard of this, you got indicted for that? People in the court just said to me, I can't believe it. This is the case. So we did nothing wrong. The other thing is, if this were such a great case, why didn't the Southern District bring it? Who looked at it, turned it down? Why didn't numerous other agencies and law enforcement groups look at it? Because it was shown to everybody. And very importantly, why didn't the federal elections do anything about it? Because this is federal, it's not state. They're trying to make it a state case, whatever. And it's not state, it has nothing to do. It's never happened before, I believe. Never happened before. This has never happened before, where the state tries to insert itself in federal elections. Nobody's ever seen it. But you know, federal elections took a total pass on it. They said essentially nothing was done wrong, or they would have done something about it. They're tough. They would have done something about it. But they said nothing, and they said, we're going to take a pass. Because they couldn't even believe it. Actually, if you read their letter, they couldn't.
The FEC ended up fining Clinton and the DNC.
Even believe it. They were incredulous. And yet, Bragg fixed it up. Now, with Bragg, if you look, when he first came in, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. Now, when are they going to look at Pomerantz and what Pomerantz did? Because that's bad stuff. And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial.
Cohen allegedly also lied in the Mueller probe. He allegedly lied just recently under oath, or a judge stated that Cohen lied under oath. Michael Avenatti has stated that Cohen has lied about 4, 5, 6 times. The Federal Commission, the FEC, in charge of campaign finance laws, stated that it's not a campaign finance violation. Trump, even if he did directly pay the hush money, and here you had Cohen paying with a corporation, with his own money on a line of credit, a home equity line of credit, and he's testified under oath stating that he does things without Trump's knowledge. Or he did things without Trump's knowledge, but it's not an FEC violation, which is what elevates this misdemeanor to a felony. Now, Democrats have Hunter, his laptop, bribery and graft schemes that are obvious. They're going after a record-keeping misdemeanor and elevating it to a felony when the federal government didn't find any felony charge. So it'll be a mistrial or it'll be overturned on appeal. Either way, this is the best case they have against Trump because it's in New York and it's a criminal case. And like the classified data case, he's a president with the power to declassify. Presidential immunity will be given to Trump in some measure. And the Georgia case has completely dissolved and unraveled. This is the best opportunity for Democrats to imprison, or no, he'll never spend even a second in jail or prison, but this is the best opportunity for them to convict Trump and try to extract as much political utility before the conviction is overturned, because the whole thing is complete and utter nonsense. And his poll numbers will still go up. Hit subscribe to this channel right now.
So he got caught lying, pure lying. And when are they going to look at that? Now we'll go to another subject, because just a few blocks away, as you know, they had a trial on the $175 million. That's Letitia James. It's all coming out of the White House, by the way. And that's in front of Judge Engoron. And the judge really didn't know anything. He didn't know about collateral security. He said, supposing it goes down. Well, it doesn't go down because it's cash. I put up $175 million in cash, and we have a bonding company do it. And he challenged the bonding company that maybe the bonding company was no good. Well, they're good, and they also have $175 million of collateral, my collateral. But the judge didn't know anything about it. He didn't know what the $175 million cash meant. He had no idea what anything meant. And he had no idea what he did in the trial. And he charged me hundreds of millions of dollars on something where I'm totally innocent. But if you look at what happened today, Judge Engoron should not have done that trial. It should have gone to the business division where they have complex business trials.
I have so much respect for this man because everybody, all the pundits on MSNBC, CNN, all the journalists, the wonderful, esteemed, respected journalists at the Washington Post and New York Times and the Daily Beast and BuzzFeed and Vice, and well, they're not around doing this work anymore, I don't think. But unfortunately, I don't want anyone to lose their job. But if you devote your life to trying to take down Trump, that's not good for the future of media. But anyway, all of these New York Magazine, The Atlantic, you have a public relations monstrosity against Trump. You have a laptop that came out 4 years ago, where the New York Post should have gotten Pulitzer Prizes, and 50 intel officials lied through their teeth, came out of nowhere and said it was a plot by another country. It's always a plot by the Kremlin to inform you about how corrupt Democrats are. Just like the DNC emails. Oh my God, that was the Kremlin also, when they cheated Bernie Sanders. They completely railroaded their own candidate. I'm the only person on planet Earth still talking about that. But anyway, I have so much respect for Trump because not one human being on this planet could withstand the full force and weight of the U.S. government, the U.S. media, and highly morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats, the ire, the angst, the vitriol, the venom, the retribution that they want for Trump defeating Clinton in 2016, and still he's up. As they desperately protect people like Biden, who Biden's own special counsel stated that they would have indicted, but they didn't think that a reasonable court would indict an elderly man with cognitive issues. This is the person leading us. This is the person that wants to, where Democrats say, yeah, he's better than Trump. How many people on this planet could withstand the entire weight and force and vitriol and venom of American media like Trump has? You know, I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet in 2015, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. And I actually thought for a second that Bernie Sanders was like Trump. I thought for a second in my brain, in my heart, that I was stuck on the left and I was completely indoctrinated, and thank God I got out of that just very terrible, terrible environment with ideology that makes no sense at all. I actually believed banning fracking would be a good thing. It'd be a very bad thing. To heat your home, you'd have to get one of Michael Cohen's home loans that he used to pay Stormy. But anyway, I thought that Bernie Sanders was somebody who would stand up to a very corrupt system. It was Trump. I should have been I wish I was the biggest Trump booster on the internet in 2015. He was a great president. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. Brought Americans home with the Doha Agreement that Biden completely botched. We had record highs in household median income, record lows in poverty. What did this man do to you, morally superior liberal Democrats, where you want to imprison him for 700 years? He was mean. The meanest, angriest people, the people with the least amount of civility online are the morally superior liberal Democrats who see Trump or anyone who supports Trump and do their best to try to demean and disparage people they consider political opponents. You have not seen vitriol and venom and bullying like liberal Democrats against even progressives. They do it to themselves before they do it to anyone else. But I really respect Trump because they are indicting him and want to imprison him for hundreds of years while they actively classify data crimes with Biden and Clinton, other crimes in terms of graft and bribery with Hunter and Biden and others that the New York Post and Chuck Grassley and Ted Cruz. I mean, there's a paper trail. There are emails. It's pretty obvious. And they'll do anything for political power. They are so hungry and craving political power. They're desperate. That's why the economy stinks. Foreign policy is an unmitigated disaster. Okay, we basically, the Democrats should go ahead and have just a no borders bill where they just do away with borders. And the reason I say that is I actually want dreamers to become citizens. I have friends who are dreamers, but what's taking place right now is not healthy for the country. It's not healthy for people trying to get into the country. And Democrats think they're morally superior because they used a different word than illegal. Meanwhile, people are experiencing the most horrible atrocities and brutality, and of course, they focus on nomenclature and names and words. But anyway, Trump is what we need for this country in 24. If you vote for anyone other than Trump, you're basically saying you want this country to go into a trajectory, towards a trajectory where inflation is worse than it is now, where crime is worse than it is, where foreign policy is even worse. It's already an unmitigated disaster. Why would you vote for anyone but Trump? It's unbelievable. I can't get it. So what if you think he's mean? There's no greater bullies on this planet than liberal Democrats who lose presidential contests. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. I have a great deal of respect for Trump. And I think you know this if you're watching. To my super chat, thank you so very much. And to the members of this channel, thank you. But hit subscribe right now.
But actually, it should have never been brought because I didn't overestimate. You know, they say I overestimated. If you look at the numbers, they're underestimated. I underestimated. I did the opposite of what they said. And the reason that they tried to, and they did it for their own narrative, they valued a $1 billion asset at $18 million. They valued other assets in order to build their narrative. They want to build a narrative. But if you look, and I have a complete record of what happened, Judge Engoron had no idea what was going on, didn't understand the most simple concepts. And this is the man that took a case, and this is why businesses they're moving out of New York because they can't be subject to this. They'd be put out of business. They're moving out of New York because of it. But Judge Engoron had absolutely no idea what had happened. He didn't realize we put up 175. But when he found out we put it up, he said, what happens if it goes up or down? I said, it doesn't, or they said, it doesn't go up or down. It's cash that we put up, all cash. Very few people could do that. And the deal was approved.
He will get a mistrial if, and I say when. So I clarified that in the title. Michael Avenatti, if they get him to testify, has been speaking to Trump's team. It's all over the news. And they're already talking about a mistrial. This is a Politico article today. Oh, no, the 19th. Okay, a couple days ago. And then they say a Trump sympathizer. Not somebody who looks at the case and says, yeah, what do you, this is, there's not that a person who doesn't like Trump, but, you know, looks at the case and says, yeah, he shouldn't go to prison for this. But a sympathizer. They're already preparing for a complete and utter letdown. There's a very good chance, especially if Michael Avenatti testifies. And we'll get back to Trump really quickly, but here, I want you to listen to this. This is so important. I just hope that Trump's team gets Avenatti to testify and say this. This is years.
Let me be clear. Michael Cohen is neither a hero nor a patriot. He lied for months on end about his criminal conduct and the role of the President of the United States. He lied in March, he lied in April, he lied in May, he lied in June, he lied in July, and only until his back was against the wall and he faced significant prison time did he decide to, quote, come clean. He even lied to the office of the special counsel in July of this year. Michael Cohen is no hero. He is no patriot. His choice, time and time again, was to degrade my client, seek to intimidate her, call her and me liars, and seek to degrade the office of the presidency of the United States by seeking to buy effectively an election.
So the last part was nonsense, but again, not one person would have altered their vote. S23, hello. To the members, hello. Lou, hello. Not one person would have altered their vote, but everything else he said, see, they need Michael Cohen, they need Stormy, but Stormy, not long ago, Michael Cohen's own lawyer, not long ago, was defending Trump. Check it out.
His own pocket from a home equity line of credit. He did it, had nothing to do with the Trump organization, right. Nothing to do with Donald Trump personally or the White House. I mean, does any attorney ever pay $130,000 out of their own pocket?
First of all, we keep labeling it as hush money. It's pursuant to a non-disclosure agreement. These non-disclosure agreements are entered into every single day.
He was a third-party beneficiary.
in America. They're entered into by politicians.
But it's money to
by
remain
CEOs.
silent.
So, but it's money to not disclose the substance of the case.
Okay.
And so $130,000 was paid. It was pursuant to a contract. But to answer your question, is that normal course of business for an attorney to pay it? No, but there's nothing illegal about it. And given the context of this relationship, there's certainly nothing unethical about it. And remember, Michael Cohen was representing EC LLC. It was EC LLC that entered into this contract. Donald Trump was a third-party beneficiary.
Does that make sense to you?
It doesn't. Donald Trump was not a third-party beneficiary under the law of California. He was.
No, but he's saying if Donald Trump had nothing to do with this, why have a line?
He has everything to do with it. He was a third-party beneficiary.
He was a third-party beneficiary. Okay?
You're just not acknowledging that fact, that he's a third-party beneficiary to this contract. He doesn't have to be a party to the contract to benefit from the contract, but he certainly can enforce the contract like a third-party beneficiary can. And this is a contract, and you are advising your client to blatantly violate a contract. And you know what? She's liable for $20 million. And this is an airtight contract. An airtight contract, $1 million per violation. And it's not just the disclosure.
Where do you get the $20 million figure?
Because there were, well, if you read,
are you talking about her appearances on the Make America
under the contract?
So $20 million was part of the NDA. If she broke the NDA. What the extortion is that I believe either she might have wanted more money, or don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. There was an extortion attempt. So there was some kind of quid pro quo where her team stated, okay, you better go ahead and do this or we'll let everybody know about it. So
she's going to be liable for $20 million, and Michael Cohen is going to collect every single penny of that money.
Can you imagine in a court of law in New York when the rule of law is upheld? Truffles, thank you, by the way, to my super chat, thank you. Could you imagine the $20 million that Michael Cohen was supposed to collect? That his own lawyer at one point stated that is $20 million. There's got to be one person who says, yeah, this is ridiculous. They are so desperate to try to write. This is all about headlines. Convicted felon, Trump, felon, convicted future prisoner, Trump, felon. That's all they want.
Make no mistake,
Michael?
he's gonna collect everything.
Make no mistake, Michael Cohen will collect everything. And now, and this is representation at one point for Michael Cohen, who now is a star witness.
Release, or how could he provide that consideration? Those terms that my client bargained for.
This is an absurd view of contract
But
law.
how can Michael Cohen promise that Donald Trump would follow through
Because
on
the
these
consideration here is the non-disclosure of whatever she's about to disclose in exchange for $130,000.
But he's saying there's more than $130,000.
There's consideration. There's two parties to the contract. Both parties signed the contract, and
So this is purely for educational purposes that I'm showing this. Purely for educational purposes, no other reason. But you heard that Michael Cohen's representation at one point in the past 6 years or so, 7 years, stated that he's going to collect $20 million. It's a non-disclosure agreement. Contract law is on the side of Cohen at that point and Trump. This is an attempt simply to get American media, which is an extension of the Democratic Party, to say, convicted felon Trump. It's going to be overturned even if he does. But there might also be a mistrial. So
And,
But how can
it's an
Michael
error.
Cohen promise that Donald Trump is not going to go near her family, or Donald Trump is going to release her from other things if Donald Trump is not a signatory?
Because those portions are irrelevant to the consideration at hand.
So why are they in the contract?
It's 130,000. I don't even know where he's reading that in the contract. All of those items, why a person would enter into a non-disclosure
It's just a
agreement.
coincidence that this was some 2 weeks before the election?
But coincidence.
Why would that matter? Not one vote would have been altered. And the FEC didn't find that he committed a crime. So, this is a very important legal analysis. Jonathan Turley, the man.
Contributor and George Washington University law professor, Jonathan Turley. So, Professor, help me out on the gag order. There's going to be a ruling on Tuesday. He's gagged, but he continues to speak. How do you see this playing out?
Well, Pete, this is the troubling aspect of that order. These gag orders have become very commonplace for courts, but this is anything but your most common case. I mean, you've got a defendant who's running for president in an election that is going to turn on, for many voters, the weaponization of the legal system. This case is the best example of a politicalization of that system. This is a partisan prosecution, in my view. The case is legally absurd, and it's being brought for the political purposes and the time.
A legally absurd case. So when Democrats look at Trump and say, well, he paid Stormy 2 weeks before 2016, not one person would have altered their vote. But they're trying to imprison this man before November of 24. A little bit different from a non-disclosure agreement that Michael Cohen took out a home equity line of credit to get. Okay? Everyone knows what's going on. They are going after Trump. And imagine, ladies and gentlemen, God forbid, if the same forces went after you, if the same forces went after the average American, if the same legal, highly educated, completely nonpartisan, apolitical, rule of law types who just happen to be morally superior, wonderful, highly educated, liberal Democrats, good people, very good people. Ask Bernie Sanders when they cheated him, and then they said it was a Kremlin plot to inform you that he was cheated. Imagine Bernie Sanders today. I don't even want to get into it. Can you imagine Bernie Sanders ever in a million years acknowledging that he was railroaded by the Democratic National Committee? Can you imagine if that ever would happen? Meanwhile, Trump is battling, never stops battling Trump. And that's why in 2016, for a second, I thought Bernie Sanders was Trump, like the same type of person. There's not many Trumps out there. Thank God for Donald Trump. Great president, great economy, great foreign policy. The most honest president. I mean, you look and say, oh, he lied 40,000 times. Like, well, okay, use that same standard. The Washington Post should use the same standard and eviscerate and slice and dice everything Biden says, if you could ever make out what he says. Or President Obama, who, with his failed foreign policy, destroyed a country in Libya. Trump destroyed no countries. Trump was the first president in decades not to get us into a prolonged military engagement, unlike Biden, where we have absolute chaos on the world stage because everyone sees weakness. And I don't mean military weakness. I mean diplomatic, political weakness, lack of vision. We have zero vision in terms of foreign policy.
By, in my view, the district attorney's office. Now, that doesn't mean that there can be no gag order, but Trump has a point here with regard to Michael Cohen. You know, this is also another uncommon aspect of the case. You have a witness who's essentially campaigning against Trump, not just talking about this case, but going on the air and campaigning against him as president, calling for people to vote against him. And you're telling a candidate that he cannot respond. In the very least, the judge could make exceptions with regard.
If there's anyone on this planet that's on the fence or an independent voter, and they're relying on Michael Cohen's testimony, knowing very well that Michael Cohen, like many of the people that turn on Trump, would be loyal to Trump were it not for his own criminal activity. Cohen committed crimes on his own. Then he got a lesser sentence because he sold his soul to the Democratic Party. It's not rocket science. This has nothing to do with virtue. Trump was objectively, when they say Trump is a harmful man, for how? He was objectively, okay, I'm going to say this very slowly, for the morally superior, highly educated liberal Democrats who despise Trump. Fact, we had record low poverty, record highs in household median income. What did this man do to you with his tweets that got you to dislike record low poverty? And people making more money than ever, record highs in household median income, without the inflation and without the interest rates. They lie to you when they say they lowered inflation. They raised inflation through the roof because of their stupid policies, shutting down economic activity during you-know-what, and then making it more difficult for oil and gas companies to operate when mashed potato brains became president. Then he blamed American oil and gas. It's complete. They're so inept at governing. They govern through public relations. That's all it is. And they lie all the time with statistics. They claim to love statistics, but they butcher and manipulate statistics. Oh, crime is down. Violent crime is up. They slice and dice even that. Let's continue.
Regard to witnesses who are now actively campaigning against a candidate for the presidency.
You think so? Nothing ordinary about any of this. You mentioned witnesses, Professor. The judge also decided that Alvin Bragg's team doesn't have to give advance notice of the witnesses who will appear to testify against President Trump. So apparently his legal team will not even be allowed to know. Right now, they're giving them a single name, and it will come out on Sunday night. Can that be right? How does a defendant not have the ability to know who the witnesses are?
Well, judges often let prosecutors, in my view, hold the names back to the very last minute. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and it drives me crazy. But I've not seen anything like this, because what the prosecutor said was, because we think he's violating the gag order, we're not going to give him other names. Well, that's not one of the sanctions for violating the gag order. You can seek $1,000 of violation. You can even seek jail time. But to endanger a fair trial and due process is not on that menu. And in my view, this is a case where the judge could have said, now, come on, we're going to deal with that contempt, and I just might rule against the defendant. But if these witnesses may be called in the next 24 hours, you need to give those names over to the defense. Instead, the judge sort of shrugged.
So this is going to be... He might actually get a mistrial if Avenatti is allowed to testify. They're desperate for a conviction. So it's likely that people basically lie to try to convict this man, to try to become part of this and convict this man. He gets even more popular with a conviction. So I don't think Democrats really get it. There's a reason that Trump gets more popular. It's because nobody trusts that Democrats in New York, for example, or in other cities, in D.C., for example, are doing this for the rule of law. This is about vitriol and venom, revenge, retribution for defeating Clinton in 2016 and becoming the future president. This is the thing. When they say that Trump is going to be a despot, they're actually talking about themselves. They're referring to themselves. That's the way they treat Trump. Listen to this again. This is the man, Michael Cohen, who is the key witness against Trump. Then they say Trump's a liar. Everyone against him lies infinitely more. And Trump, he embellishes. I still haven't heard anything he outright lied about. Unlike Biden, who lied about doing business, likely graft and bribery with Hunter.
Of Donald Trump. Let me be clear. Michael Cohen is neither a hero nor a patriot. He lied for months on end about his criminal conduct and the role of the President of the United States. He lied in March. He lied in April. He lied in May, he lied in June, he lied in July, And only until his back was against the wall and he faced significant prison time did he decide to, quote, come clean. He even lied to the office of the special counsel in July of this year. Michael Cohen is no hero. He is no patriot.
Hit subscribe to this channel, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've given you enough information proving that a mistrial could take place. I'll be back tomorrow night. God bless you all. Hit subscribe. I apologize for being late. I can't thank you enough, everybody. Share this everywhere. This will be very interesting. Trump's going to be the next president of this country, thank God. Be here in November and beyond also. We're going to have an amazing celebration, live streams on this channel. I'll start doing 2, possibly 3 live streams when things get really